Hello, my name is Angela Smith. In May of 1977, I was born in western Kansas. I've gone through a lot in my life, but I believe every part of it has made me who I am today. Sure, I've not understood, like many of us, why we go through what we go through. However, since I've become a Christian, I have tried my best to put my trust in the Lord. Thankfully, He always gets me through every stumbling word. Sharing my testimony has been one of my many dreams. I'm not out for sympathy, only to help others. I pray I'll at least help one of you. I want to give you hope to keep hanging on. There's light at the end of the other end, ultimately heaven. God is always with you, even when it doesn't feel like it. One of my favorite poems is Footprints. I believe it fits my life. I'm by no means perfect or better than anyone else. The great Lord is the reason I am here today. He has given me back my life in so many ways than just dying for my sins. For that, I'm extremely grateful. I was born with hydrocephalus, water on the brain. I had a big head, which worried my parents, but our local doctor said I would just grow out of it. Finally, at 3 months of age, my parents found out, and I had to have my first brain surgery. The neurosurgeon installed a shunt to drain the spinal fluid from my brain into my stomach. At 11 months of age, I had spinal meningitis and several mini strokes. I've had meningitis 4 times in my life. After the first time, I developed epileptic seizures and had to have my first shunt revision, my second brain surgery. The doctors told my family at one point to plan my funeral. Thankfully, with much prayer, my fever broke and I survived. The doctors were amazed I was still alive. They told my parents I wouldn't live past the age of 12, and if I did, I would be mentally challenged. I was a little over 3 years old when my sister was born. Thankfully, she didn't have as many medical complications as I did. My mom said I always had difficulty recovering from my illnesses, even from the common cold. By the age of 5, I had already had my fourth brain surgery. My parents divorced before or after my fourth brain surgery when I was 5, and my sister was 2 years old. I blame myself most of my life for their divorce. It was extremely difficult not living with my both parents. However, my sister and I would go with our dad and family on the holidays as well as the summertime. Many from my diverse family understand where I'm coming from. As I've gotten older, I have now realized what a blessing it is to have step parents who are very special to me. My mom got remarried 3 times after my biological dad. Each one has impacted my life. My mom's first time getting remarried was to a minister. I didn't like him the first time I met him, but I'm glad they got married only because they had 2 beautiful children. He was very abusive physically, mentally, and emotionally. My stepdad was abusive also to our mom. He would punish us girls by beating us with a belt, but myself more than my sister. I'd rather take the beating from my sister anyway. Our stepfather would also tell me I was worthless. I will never forget the last time he physically and verbally abused me. When he got mad, it was scary and serious. He would get right in our face. It was weird. It was almost like I knew something bad was about to happen that night. Our mom was not home. He beat me repeatedly and verbally abused me. It felt like an eternity. I prayed that night. Eventually, our mom returned home and he thankfully stopped. I hated school. I was made fun of because I had epilepsy and many learning disabilities. I had to stay home a couple days after being abused the last time, but I was glad when I was eventually able to go back to school. I wore jeans over my bruises and it hurt for months. That summer, I moved to live with our dad and stepmom. I was never very good at adjusting to new situations, especially new schools. I was picked on in school by teachers and peers. I had a few friends. That was nothing new. By the time I moved in with them in fourth grade, my epilepsy was getting worse. A few years later, I was tested for epilepsy brain surgery, and I was on Children's Miracle Network. Eventually, I was eligible for the epilepsy brain surgery. That is really the first brain surgery I remember having. I will never forget my mom asking my stepfather to pray with me before I went in for my brain surgery. I didn't believe a word he said. While my stepfather was praying with me, I was using words in my head that I'm not proud of today. I was not a Christian, even though I went to church as a child. The surgery overall was a success. For the most part, I was seizure-free for 10 years. Soon after my epilepsy surgery, my mom divorced my stepfather. She had to give up her son, which was one of the hardest decisions she has ever had to face. My mom did remarry again, but sadly it ended up in divorce. He was an alcoholic. I was talking and singing before I was walking. My favorite song to sing was Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. I started playing the piano the summer of my second grade year, and the flute when I was in fifth grade. My seventh grade year, I began playing the accordion. My sister and I both took lessons in Denver, Colorado. At first, I didn't like the accordion. I got way too frustrated with it. Then one day, I thought I would try it one more time, and have never looked back. Crazy. Music has and will always be a big part of my life, as well as a huge outlet. I was in band and chorus all the way from fifth grade through college. I also sang in our church choir in high school. I was picked on because I was a musician and not out for sports growing up. However, my band teacher told me something one day I will never forget. Most likely you can sing and or play an instrument till the day you die, but you can't play a sport. That really helped me. I did play volleyball my freshman and sophomore year, but my true passions were music and showing cattle in 4-H and FFA. I learned so much and had a blast, especially showing cattle and performing in music with my friends. The year before my suicide attempt, I started to see a neuropsychologist because I was having pseudo seizures. I started seeing him more after my attempt. He became like a father to me and still is to this. We still keep in touch. Every summer, I remember my grandparents taking my cousin, sister, and I to Iowa to visit family. Summer before my sophomore year in high school, I became a Christian. My cousin was the one that brought me to Christ. That was the best decision I personally have ever made. I graduated in 1996 from Greeley County High School. My mom, an old doctor of mine, they started chatting. He was asking all about her, and then she asked him if he was going to ask about me. He said, I figured Angela would be dead by now. My mom proudly told him I was alive by the grace of God and graduated high school as well as played the accordion. He was one of the doctors when I was 11 months old that said I would not live long, wouldn't make it into public school, and would have to be institutionalized. Little did they know I would one day graduate college with honors, play the accordion, and later become a certified nurse's aide, a restorative aide, activities director, social service designee, and a mental health aide. 20 years later, at my high school reunion, I was voted most inspirational. I felt honored, and I'm so grateful our class is a lot closer than before. My father found a college for me through a friend. It's a special school for people with dyslexia and disabilities called Landmark College. The college wasn't sure they could help me, but they decided to have me on a first trial basis. I took classes in Denver, Colorado before attending college. I also took accordion lessons. I got to play in one of the accordion bands. It was a blast. The summer I That summer I played in one of the United States' largest accordion bands. I started attending Landmark College in Vermont, January of '07. The moment I walked on campus, I felt so free and happy. I eventually ended up helping them expand the jazz band and learn the tenor saxophone. I also helped the college start a woodwind ensemble and chorus. I made so many friends right away. That semester, my three best friends were all guys. I thought I was in heaven. We all understood each other because we all had learning disabilities. I felt It felt great not to be picked on because of my learning disabilities and not out for sports. No one cared that I was a musician at Landmark College. They thought it was cool. That semester was going well for me. My grades were good, but my health started to decline. I had to have my first shunt revision in 15 years. I got out within 5 days. Then I went back to college and made it on the dean's list. Never in my life had I made it on the dean's list. It was very rewarding and exciting. Then my college decided they could help me. I could come back that next semester. I was so excited and so relieved. I finally found a place where I was accepted, could be myself, and finally succeed academically. I'm forever grateful for my parents and grandparents on my dad's side paying my way. I was very active in the music department in college, just like in high school. I was also involved in residential life, which was a lot of fun too. I have so many great memories hanging out with friends and taking wild trips. I ended up dating a college classmate. The relationship wasn't healthy. He ended up raping me repeatedly. I remember crying my eyes out to God, apologizing, repeatedly, even though I knew it was not my fault. I have been raped by 4 men my whole life. Once again, I am so grateful for the great Lord's forgiveness. It has taken me a long time to not only forgive them, but myself. That fall in September '99, I got really sick again. I went back to the same hospital. I had to have another shunt revision. I will never forget one day when, back at school, I got even worse. My friends took me back to the emergency room. I'll never forget the neurosurgeon telling us that I would have to have 2 more brain surgeries to fix the problem. I was in tears, and my friends just held me. My Christian friend thankfully prayed with me. My mom and grandma were on the plane the next day. That is one of the many things I loved and appreciated about my mom and grandma, especially mom. Mom always said her kids came first, no matter what, and she always stuck to that. I ended up having 6 brain surgeries from September to November. My family wanted me closer to home, so my grandma and my dad drove me home. I was put in our local hospital. I was still in an extreme amount of pain and in a wheelchair. I felt like I was getting worse. I ended up being taken to a bigger hospital where I had another shunt revision. This was my 7th brain surgery in 4 month time period, 13 my whole life. After that, I went in to a physical therapy hospital for a little bit, but I kept getting worse. The doctors told my family I was not trying to get better. I eventually went back home after being in physical therapy hospital, but was still getting worse daily. I was so frustrated. I would try so hard in physical therapy and it would not show. I remember lying in bed almost screaming at God. Finally, the local physical therapist told my dad there was still something wrong. So I went back into the hospital in Texas. They could not figure it out. I continued to scream at God. Why, God? Why? The next morning, my neuro team came in and said I had Arnold-Chiari malformation. My brain was pushing down on my brainstem, and there was not enough room for my brain. So, the end of January 2000, I had my 8th brain surgery in 5 months. They also put another shunt in. I remember the day after my surgery, they told me I should be up and walking, but I couldn't. I mean, good grief. Are you serious? I take longer to bounce back, but you really expect a normal person after all those brain surgeries just to get up and walk without assistance? I remember getting so frustrated at the doctors. Eventually, they just said I was not trying. How did they honestly know? Have they ever walked a day in my shoes? They said I was faking it and just wanted attention. It just blew my aching mind what they were saying. The neurosurgeons and neurologists eventually put me in a psych ward where I continued physical therapy. I remember constantly crying to God. Thankfully, He was there for me when it felt many were not. I got very depressed, yet I had my faith, even though it was the size of a mustard seed. Matthew 17:20. I finally got to go home with months of physical therapy ahead of me. I progressed from a wheelchair, walker, cane, and finally back to walking on my own again. I was so glad and grateful to be finally back at college that fall. It was very hard for me. I had to relearn my new learning style. Everyone was so understanding and patient, but most of all, glad to have me back. My last semester, I took biology. For my final project, I researched and gave a presentation on my diagnosis, Arnold-Chiari malformation. I wanted to learn more about it. I found out that many people have trouble all their lives, and it took some people even up to a year or more to walk after their Chiari brain surgery. Others had their Chiari return and had to have another brain surgery. God really taught me about forgiveness during that time. When I returned to college, I also went back to my old church. I asked the pastor if I could give my testimony. He let me speak the Sunday before my graduation, although I missed. It was finally then I forgave the choir for thinking I didn't know how to read music because of my learning disability. When I gave my testimony, everyone was shocked. They could not believe I could play the accordion with so many learning disabilities. I told them how the most intelligent people, like Albert Einstein, had dyslexia, and look how far and intelligent, accessible he was. My main reason for giving my testimony at that church was to educate people about us. Just because we have a learning disability doesn't mean we aren't gifted and intelligent in other areas. After the church service, I got asked by a lady if I could give her my written testimony. I felt honored. That's what I want to do. I want to help others. My testimony helped them. My goal is to help you. At my college, each graduate gave a speech. The night before my graduation, I went to the resident dean to share my mind with her. I asked her if she'd change anything, and she said no, even though it was quite long. When I gave my speech, I was in tears several times, but they were good tears. I got 2 standing ovations. I was the only one out of my class to receive a standing ovation, let alone 2. I graduated with honors, which I never dreamed would happen until I went to Landmark College. I've been told there are still people that talk about me, and I'm still an inspiration to many. My best friend told me her dad says I still inspire him. I've been told I'm an inspiration to one of my high school teachers as well. I started writing poetry the summer after I graduated high school and still write to this day. In 2019, I got my first book published called Faith, Hope, and Love. I didn't do it for fame or only a dream. I have written over 1,300 poems since the summer of 1996. I have also had some of them published in books with other people. I am grateful for that and feel honored. I eventually moved and got a job at Walmart. Later, I ended up meeting a British man while working there. He was from London, England. A few months after we started dating, I was on my way to meet up with him. We were going out on another date. I never made it. A drunk driver pulled out in front of me. All I remember was trying to call my boyfriend and tell him what had happened, then calling my dad. I was really frustrated and thankful my family helped me out. My boyfriend and I eventually got married, but the marriage did not last. We had our good times, but he was emotionally, psychologically, and sexually abusive. In 2010, I was working as a home health aide for 8 months, but I started not feeling well again. My physician assistant referred me to my neurologist. All I remember was going to the ER. After seeing my neurologist, they admitted me. I was told my Chiari was back. He said, yes, it can come back. And some people have trouble walking the rest of their lives. Later, he did become my neurosurgeon. He said I needed brain and spinal surgery. Due to financial circumstances, I didn't have them, and my neurosurgeon told me that if I did not, I would get worse or die. I'm worse today, but praise God, I'm still alive. Our family had a very sad and tragic thing happen. Still to this day, it feels like a bad dream. I will never forget. My aunt had committed suicide. I remember I screamed, no, no, she's religious. She is the mother of 4 children. Still to this day, it feels like it was just a nightmare I'll hopefully wake up from. Then I see her obituary and realize the truth. My aunt helped me through so many hard times, my questions about God, and so much more. I miss her every day. However, I'm grateful she isn't suffering anymore. I eventually moved from the country into town. I loved it, but I was getting worse. I had to move into assisted living care home where I used to work. That was so hard for me. I felt in my heart God telling me to write my first stepfather for his past abuse. I felt a sense of closure. I have forgiven everyone who's hurt me and asked forgiveness in return. I wanted his forgiveness and wanted him to know I forgave him. My brother's dad took him away from our family. He did not grow up with us. I'm grateful my brother got to meet Mom before she passed. That was thankfully an answered prayer for both Mom and I. Some of my neuro doctors have said they're not surprised I'm having so many medical issues. I'm told I may never walk again, but that doesn't stop my faith in God. It doesn't stop me from working at it daily. God has already blessed me with so many miracles, far more than I deserve. I'm extremely grateful. I have hope, even though I struggle with pain every day. Some days I must stay in bed all day because of the increased pressure on my brain. I keep plugging along and doing the best I can. Every day is a blessing for me. I wasn't even supposed to be alive today. I met the most amazing man on a disabled dating site. He has become one of my best friends. We are both Christians. He is one of my best friends, but also my boyfriend. He inspires me daily to be a better person. He has really helped me since my mom's passing. I am so grateful. We look forward to seeing what God has planned for us in the future. I still struggle at times that I'm in a wheelchair with severe pain 24/7, with many other obstacles. But there are many others that are a lot worse off than me. I still have so much to be grateful for. My heart and prayers go out to all who suffer. I've been taught all my life to look at the positive. Sadly, the person who taught me this doesn't look at me and my situation in a positive way. Maybe that's their way of coping. My daily goal is to live my life the best I can despite my obstacles and what some have said in the past. I'm alive and grateful for every breath given. Most importantly, my goal is to live my life to glorify and honor our Lord. No matter what I go through, I'm alive. Praise God, I'm alive. For I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Philippians 4:13. I've learned from my own journey to keep putting my faith in the Lord, and He will get me through. He has and always will. I'm not saying I'm a perfect Christian. I fall daily, but I do my best to get back on the right path. With my family, many friends, and boyfriend, especially God, I get through each day. I want to help others. This has always been one of my dreams, to share my testimony and help people. I want to give you and everyone hope. You are not alone. You are not alone, and you will get through whatever you're going through when you trust in God. Isaiah 43:2. When you go through deep waters and great trouble, I will be with you. When you go through the rivers of difficulty, you will not drown. When you walk through the fire of oppression, you will not be burned up. The flames will not consume you. God is with you and loves you so very much. Some of you may be thinking, like I did as a child, well, if there is a God, then why is this happening to me? I admit, I still wonder that at times. Like I said, I'm human. Jesus has been there. Jesus walked on this earth tempted, yet never sinned. He suffered and died on the cross for us all, so we may have everlasting life. He loves us so much. Literally, the great Lord has not just saved my life by dying for my sins. He has given me back my life in so many ways. I am so grateful. I have seen God. I have seen the golden gates of heaven. I remember it so vividly, standing in front of God crying, God, please let me in. I'm tired, weak, and just want to come home. He said, my child, it's not your time yet. When it is, I will come and get you. I love you. After that, the light was gone, and I was back in my body. But I felt this incredible peace. When I get down, he always reminds me, my child, I don't like to see you go through this, but I am here for you. I want you to bring people through your testimony to me. Trust me more, my child. I love you. No matter what I've gone through, it has shaped me into the woman I am today. My time here on earth is not finished yet. Every day I make it a point to thank the Lord for every new day. None of us know when it's our last moment, minutes, hour, day, or year here on earth. Yet what is for certain is Christ is returning. He wants a relationship with us and our forever home with Him. All of us will be eternally healed. Knowing this gives me such hope and peace to continue to push through every day. Thank you for this opportunity to share my testimony of how God has worked and molded me into His daughter. God loves you all so much. My prayers are with you all. God bless and peace be with you.